Hey everybody, welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie Mandy.
And I'm here with my bestie Jessica.
So it's that time again. It is time for our 1-minute book recs. This is where Mandy and I talk about all the books that we read this week with 1-minute reviews of each book. So let's talk about the books we read this week. All right, so
I'm waiting for you to say but first.
Oh, is that what I'm supposed to do?
Okay. You always do that.
Sorry, but first, before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We are still doing our Road to 1K giveaway. So Mandy, what are we giving away when we hit 500 subscribers? And we are so close to 500 subscribers.
We are. So we have this dark romance reader cinch sack that is going to be full of fun swag. And we have Twisted Love that will be in there. And we have some very exciting things planned that we're working out the details for when we get to 750 and 1K.
So a lot of stuff happened this week that we are so excited for, but we can't tell you till we get there. So let's get there. So
yes.
Yeah. You also get an extra entry when you follow us on Instagram. So make sure that you're doing that, and all that information is linked below. And it's also on our community page too.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So tell me about your reading week.
I read 7 books. 2 are like a book 3 and 4, so I can't talk. I'll talk 6 times. And I got stung by a yellow jacket, so my hand is huge.
Okay.
I'm suffering. My reading week started off very strong and then just kind of slowly went, yeah.
Yep. I concur. So we had
You've been following my reading week?
No. So we said last week that I was having an extremely stressful week. Well, the poo actually hit the fan on Monday, and I had to at 3:00 in the afternoon, I found out that I had to be in California by 3:00 the next day to get my daughters to the hospital down there to see a bunch of doctors. And so we were out the door. And so my reading week was, for me, it was very slow. I actually did read 6 books. So I thought I was coming in really slow, but it actually works out perfectly for us. We were down there Tuesday through Friday, right? Is that how long I was gone?
Yes.
Yeah. Seeing specialists and things were working out. So we were very blessed that we were able to do that and be down there with my sister-in-law and her wife. And so that worked out great, and we'll be going back and forth. But stress levels are still high, but we are getting answers. So, that was a blessing. Yes. So yeah, I have 6 books.
Okay. Do you want to go first?
Sure. I can go first.
Okay. And so are you saying your reading week was the same? You started off good and then it kind of...
Yeah, like on Sunday, I read 3 books on Sunday, and then it was like... Okay, so the first book I read is a prequel. This is Wicked Summer Nights. This is by Tracy Lorraine. And this is the prequel to her Knight's Ridge Empire series. This is a high school mafia romance. Now figure that one out. I haven't quite yet. Basically, it is a really quick listen on Audible, and it sets up the whole series. So this is, I don't even remember their names. All I know is these 2 kids accidentally meet in a cemetery. Our heroine has just moved to London, and she's out walking, and she's, thinking about how she just moved there, don't know nobody. And she meets this guy, and they bang it out in a cemetery. Then they meet the next day at high school, and he's not nice to her, but it sets up the whole series. And that's literally what the book is about. I honestly gave it 4 stars because it had me like, oh, I want to read the rest of this. Most novellas and prequels don't do that for me. This did. So I am ready to dive into the rest. Yeah. I'm here for it. So I'll be starting that soon.
All right.
Yeah. It did it.
All right. Well, Jessica, went and finished the Parallel series. So I read books 3 and 4 in that.
So. I wasn't flipping you off. I promise I was scratching.
I feel like you did that last week.
I don't do it intentionally.
Well, maybe you need to pay more attention to how you scratch. Oh, now you're going to get us banned for inappropriate gestures on YouTube.
Stuff on YouTube. Go on.
All right.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so I read Across Time and Across Eternity by Elizabeth O'Rourke. This is book 3 and 4 in the parallel series. It follows a different couple, but you really need to read books 1 and 2 to understand kind of what's happening in books 3 and 4. So this is Amelia and Henry's story. Amelia, present day is like 1987, I believe, and she keeps having this dream that her sister is telling her that she needs to go back and help Marie. So she time travels back, and she is not a very skilled time traveler. Should we put it that way? Time traveling is difficult for her. And she really is kind of against it because her mom has just made her feel like crap her whole life. So she time travels back to 1938 France to help them. And she, ends up with Marie and Henry. And Marie can also time travel. Henry cannot. And darn it, I didn't realize I was talking that much. But it is 1938 France. So just thinking about history, bad things are coming very quickly. And so this is on her mind while she's there. She's trying to figure out exactly how she's supposed to help them. Lots of things happen in these two books, but I don't want to give anything away. Their love story is very powerful. I really enjoyed it. Both books were 5-star reads for me. There are times though where the history of what's happening in that country and some of the things that happened to them was difficult to read. And I cried. My son actually had surgery this week to fix a broken nose and from basketball. And so I was sitting in the waiting room while he's having surgery and reading the book, and it was making me cry. So I'm like, oh my gosh, great. I'm like sitting here crying in the waiting room. People are going to think I'm just not handling the whole situation well.
Like, oh, she's one of those moms.
Yes. So all 4 books are fantastic. I know Surviving Trace, we throw that out there a lot. I would say that they're very, very different time travel romances. Surviving Trace is like this epic love story where these 2 books are more focused on almost a survival because of all the things that are happening in this time period. Also, I just want to note that if you read these 4 books, make sure you subscribe to her newsletter so you can get the extended epilogue. It ties a lot more together of things that we saw in the first 2 books with this. And I really, really like that. I almost didn't bother with it because sometimes the extended epilogues from authors are basically just another like sex scene and like kids. So I was like, I don't know. And I decided to do it. And I was so glad I did. So I wanted to make sure to point that out, that if you read the series, make sure you read the extended epilogue. I really enjoyed it. I felt like it wrapped the series up really, really well. Okay. That was technically 2 books. So I feel like I didn't really go over my time.
I think you did okay. I think you're all right. I was curious about those because I know those keep getting recommended just because we love the Surviving Trace so much. Yes. So I was curious because of things that happened in the first one that was hard for me to get through it because of some personal stuff. So I was just very curious as to like, you had to read it before me. Like I had to know.
That sort of stuff did not happen, not even remotely in this book, but there is just some, oops, sorry. Sorry. Anyway, there is some deep stuff that happens. And so it's just very different from Surviving Trace. I don't think you can compare the 2. Okay. Are you ready to tell us about your next book?
I did. I read a K. Webster for my next book. And this is one I've had on my bookshelf forever. I listened to this one and I'm glad that I did. I think this is probably one of my this one was a 4.5 star for me. It wasn't a 5-star, which is really weird because K. Webster's a lot 5 stars, but this one was very deep. This one was very different from what I've read of K. Webster. So that was The Day She Cried by K. Webster. So this one is told in dual perspectives. This is about a set of twins, that's Rome and Raven. They are being raised by their drunk father and they are loners. They have a harder time at school. They're being made fun of quite a bit. And then we have Courtney, who is one of the cheerleaders. She's one of the popular girls. You have even who she starts up a it's like a dating app. She gets on there and she starts talking to this guy on there, and certain events happen because of that, and there's consequences because of what happens to that with her on there. And we see the consequences and outcomes, and then I mean it's really hard to explain because then we have a little bit further in the future, then you have Courtney and Rome, and Courtney is paying for some of those consequences. So this is, it starts in high school, does not end, like we're at the very, very tail end of high school. It's a bully romance, but it's not how you would think it would be bully. It's kind of a little bit of cyberbullying, but definitely check triggers. It is dark, but it is really, really, really good. So it's just different. It's very different. So I really enjoyed it, but I just can't tell much more than that because it's just so, it's not what you think it is. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So those 2 books were my only 5-star reads for the week.
Well, at least you had one.
Now I'm at a 4-star read, and then we're gonna just.
Oh no. Okay.
Okay. So get my timer set here. My next book is called Within These Walls by J.L. Berg. This is about Layla and Jude. Layla has a heart condition that she was born with that has landed her in the hospital a lot. Like she has spent probably more time in the hospital than she has at home. She has a mom. It's just her and her mom. Her mom is very, I would say overprotective, but I feel like her mom is just trying very diligent to make sure that her daughter stays alive. So she really doesn't get to leave her apartment or the hospital. Like those are the 2 places she's been. She lives in California and like doesn't get to go out and do things because protecting her health is like the top priority. So she is in the hospital again. And in the hospital, she meets Jude, who's a CNA. And he has been at this hospital for 3 years because of a tragic accident that happened. And he was unwilling to leave the hospital, which leads him to getting a job and giving up his entire life to stay at this hospital. And that's how the 2 of them meet. And because of some circumstances, Jude feels drawn to Layla, and they form what starts off as a friendship and then quickly becomes more than that. So lots of things happen in this book. I don't want to give anything away, so there's lots of spoilers. It was a wonderful story. I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Okay.
It is emotional, though. So if you're not, like, you probably wouldn't want to read this right now.
Yeah.
If hospital scenes and that sort of thing are too much for you, this would not be the book to read at this, like, if you're in that place. I know when I've had, like, when my mom was sick, this would not have been a book that I would have wanted to read, just because you don't want those emotions when you already are having emotions like that. So just a slight warning on that. Otherwise, it is a really good story. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, so my next book made me feel really stupid.
Oh, interesting.
Well, it was historical, but some of the words were really big, okay? Not every of them big. They were just different because they're historical, right?
So it's historical words that tripped you up?
They were just not something we would read in everyday text, where I'd be like, what is that? How would you? That's not something I've seen before. Yeah, maybe.
I think writing a historical romance, especially if you're going back to thou art thou type days, you have to write very carefully so that you're not overwhelming your reader, but yet you're still making them feel like they're in that time. It's a trick.
It's a trick. And it wasn't like a ton, but it was enough that I was like, it slowed me down a little bit and also made me feel dumb. So, but that's okay. I did enjoy the book. So let's talk about that one.
Okay.
Okay. So this is called Gallows Pole, and it is by Eris Adderley. So this is about Emmett, which is a girl's name. Another thing that threw me, it is Mmmmat. I was like, Emmett? Like, is it Emmett or Emmett? I didn't get that one either. And Google didn't help much. Anyhow, so Emmett is racing, an opening scene, she's racing on this stolen horse to get to her brother who's about to be hung. He is with the hangman. He is at the gallows on the hill, and she meets his friends who are going to try and bribe the hangman. You cannot bribe the hangman, but she is going to go fight the hangman. She's going to get her brother away. She gets up there, the hangman, he's got his hood on, and he's like, you just can't get somebody away from the hangman. She tries to rescue her brother, and obviously she fails in the attempt. And when that happens, he is like, I'll take you instead. So she thinks that she is giving her life for her brother because her parents tell her, come home with your brother or not at all. And the hangman says, I'll take you. Basically, he takes her home to be his wife, but he doesn't let her see him. So when they get to his house, it's pitch black. He keeps his hood on or in pitch black, and he won't let her see him at all. So this is their story. There's a lot more than meets the eye. I actually really enjoyed it. It's a shorter story, but I really did like it. I gave it 4 stars. I was into it. It was a little Halloween-ish almost, because you do have the hangman aspect of it, but I liked it. Except it did make me feel stupid.
Okay.
Some words.
I misspoke. My next book, it was 5 stars, and then it starts to go downhill. I'm sorry. But I want to clarify. I rated, so let me just say something quickly, and then I'll clarify my rating, then I'll talk about the book. So I listened to the Honeymoon Crashers, which is like book 1.5, she marks it, for the unhoneymooners. If you've read this book, it's hilarious. I think so. I know you're not into rom-coms. You just don't like rom-coms. I love a good
I didn't think it was hilarious, but you and I obviously disagree on hilarious.
You don't like this type of writing style though, and I do enjoy it. I can't read it constantly, but like every once in a while, I love it. So the Unhoneymooners is really, in my opinion, if you like rom-coms, you will like this. Okay. Mm-hmm. I think so. It's very different, but it's like the forced proximity kind of fake dating, but it has a very different preference for how you get there. So the Honeymoon Crashers is an Audible original that's like the full cast. It's not annoying though. It doesn't have like tons of sound effects, where sometimes they overdo those with the sound effects. This one's not like that, but it was very enjoyable. So I actually rated it a 5, and I want to explain something. So for me, the Honeymoon Crashers was a 5 based on what the Honeymoon Crashers is. It is an Audible narration. It's a rom-com. It's meant to be a quick, fun listen. Now, if I were to rank this with some other books that I've rated 5s, would this book be up there? No, it wouldn't. But in its category, it's a 5 for what it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify. I felt, because I was like, maybe I should rate this a 4. And I'm like, no, for what it is, it was a 5-star listen to me. I really enjoyed it. So let me tell you really quickly what it's about now that I talked about. Okay, here we go. So, oops, I paused the timer. It's just starting it. Okay, so this is Olive and Ethan. They're going to Hawaii to get married. Surprise! The whole family decides to come with them, where you get the Honeymoon Crashers from. And Amy is determined to give Olive the wedding of her dreams and finally break the Taurus family curse. And so she is running around, trying to get all of this stuff situated. And if you remember Amy from the first book, she loves a good bargain. So she's like really working hard on this. Well, Olive and Ethan insist that Ethan's best man, Brody, who's living on the island at the time, is going to help her. And Amy's like, no, but they like insist. And Brody is just very, very different from Amy. And so it just takes like a fun turn, because Amy's like very type A and serious. And Brody presents himself as just kind of a character. So I really, really enjoyed it. It was a great listen. So if you've not read this and you like rom-coms, read this and then listen to the full Audible narration. I think you could still enjoy it if you haven't read The Unhoneymooners, but you definitely understand characters and understand what's happening much better if you listen to this after you've read the book.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So now we're going to talk about one of my favorite reads of the week.
I thought your week got worse as it went on.
It gets worse after this. I guess I
Mm.
wouldn't say it got worse. Just didn't have any 5 stars.
Okay.
It just was interesting.
Ready?
So, yeah. So I read No Small Bet, and this is by Samantha Christie. This is about Hawk and Addie. So when the book opens up, Hawk, who is our billionaire playboy, he's a complete douche nozzle. I mean, just sleeps with him, leaves him, kind of a thing. Finds out that in the small town he lives in, the girl that he had slept with at one point in time has given birth, and she has died. And supposedly he is the father of the baby, yet he has not claimed this baby. And she gave birth, like while giving birth, she had a placental abruption that had killed her. And he's left the baby at the hospital. Like, he wants nothing to do with his baby. Addie has had an accident when she was young. She lost a brother, and one night got really drunk and had a car crash and lost her leg. She's an amputee, and their families are rival families. Anyhow, Hawk's grandpa says, look, if you go get your baby, I will double your inheritance if you keep her for a year. At the end of that year, I don't care what you do, but you have to keep her, and you have to have a nanny, but you have to do all of these things. He has nannies that quit within the week. He goes through like 2 or 3, and he finally sees Addie. They get stuck in at the hospital in a elevator together. And he's like, be my nanny. He triples her salary. She agrees to be his nanny. I love this book. I love the reluctant father. He's a real jerk. He really is. So that was really hard in the beginning. He didn't even want to name the baby. But watching him start to finally like soften up towards her and the baby, watching her with her leg, like it would fall off all the time because she had like the original, like she couldn't afford to get a better model. And she would make jokes. Like kids would be like, what happened to your leg? And she like buried it. Like she always just, made excuses. Like it was funny. There were funny moments. But it was also serious. It was really good. I liked it. I give it 4.5 stars just because it was a good listen. It's what I needed for the week. It was good.
All right.
Yep. Next.
I just realized, like, my pants are on fire. My reading week didn't really suck as bad as I made it out to be.
Okay.
I just had.
I was like, your pants are on fire.
Liar, pants on fire.
Got it. Yeah.
I didn't mean to be misleading.
Okay.
I'll explain this book is regular, and then my next 2 books I'll explain why I felt like my reading week was more disappointing. So my next read is called The Priest by Elizabeth O'Rourke. Did I get it right that time?
Yes.
Okay, it's a novella. This was a 4-star read for me. She actually has an author's note in it that says that she purposely wrote this so that there are no spoilers for the parallel series. So if you read this without having read the parallel series, there's no spoilers. I found it was lacking a little bit because of the fact that there weren't spoilers. This is about Marie and Father Edouard, and that's really all I want to say, I think, about it. He's a priest, Marie, and him,
Okay.
There's really not a lot to say without giving away spoilers, even though it's written spoiler free. I strongly encourage you to read the parallel series, then read this, so it just fills in a few more blanks on their relationship. I will say I was kind of disappointed. I was hoping when I was reading the parallel series, I'm like, ooh, I really hope she gives them their own book. I was looking for more on their story, but I get where if you wrote their story, you would have to be repeating a lot of the stuff that came in the parallel series to do that, or you have to give away a lot of spoilers. So I get why this was written this way. I just would have liked to have seen more.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Look. So later today, we're going to film our next Convincing My Bestie to Read. And you already know it's Alien because our viewers have asked for another.
People are mean.
They've asked for another Alien recommendation video.
So
that's what you're getting. I felt like I needed to try and maybe find new Alien ones out there, which is not easy. Let me just get that out there right now. And I took one for the team. Okay? I've taken several for the team.
Based on your Alien books, it seems like there's no real in between with those. they're either so far like your Bigfoot read. I know Bigfoot's not an alien, but that whole paranormal, like it's either so far over here or it's really good. There's no like, it was okay. It was,
At least
no.
That's how it is. They're either good. I mean, every once in a while you get like a wow, but it's hard for me to take Alien extremely seriously. But they're either good or they're like, what the hell did I just read? I really wanted to like this one.
Okay.
But we're going to talk about it.
Tell us about it.
Well, I can't when you're not on me.
Well, you can. People just get confused.
Okay. So this is Alien Psycho by Loki Renard. So this is about Mannix and Lisa. So Lisa is an alien bounty hunter, and she is going after Mannix. He is on an ice planet. Now, this ice planet makes ice planet barbarians look like a tropical vacation because it's like negative 200 some odd degrees Fahrenheit here. Her spaceship, or she crashes on here, and Mannix finds her. Now, he is a psycho crazy wanted for all these murders, and he finds her. She's been hurt. He heals her. Then he decides that he's crazy as all get out, but he's going to keep her. He's like 10 feet tall, and he has a prehensile penis. It moves like an elephant trunk. She's only like 5'7", so she's my height. It talks about how she comes up to like his like belly basically, but then yeah, he's sniffing her neck. I don't. How is he completely bent over? These things matter when you're reading a book. If you're describing your giant ass alien as 10 foot tall, he would have to be bent over completely. You have to describe that. These things throw.
Or he picked her up.
No, she was standing. She was
on
standing. This is the first part. This first part just completely threw me out. There were some funny elements as we got into it, but then like he was talking about, fingers in areas, right? If he's that big, his fingers have got to be absolutely huge. If you got more than one in there, we got.
Hey, stop making fun of people.
I'm just saying, I gave it 3 stars. I enjoyed it when I was reading it, but it was some of those things like, what the hell am I reading? It is not what I'm going to make you read.
Thank you.
Put it that way.
Okay. Okay, Jessica, my next book. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, it's called Silent Vows by Jill Ramsauer, and this is about Connor and Noemi. I will talk about how I rated it after I tell you what it's about. Noemi is in a car wreck with her mom, and her mom is killed. And she has reason to believe that her father, who's in the Mafia, had her mom killed. So she stops talking. So she pretends basically that something happened to her in the accident that prevents her from being able to speak. Connor is in another Mafia group, and there's an arranged marriage, and he's basically looking at pictures and little background blurbs of these different women that he could pick to be his arranged wife. And he specifically picks her because she doesn't talk. So he's like, perfect. So I was very excited. Based on that, like my little blurb, I was very excited to read this, but I went in with expectations that this would have kind of that Mafia Cora Riley feel. Mm-hmm. And so that eventually she was going to open up to him. Well, before they even get married, she starts talking to him and things like escalate kind of quickly. It's still a good read, but it was disappointing because I wanted more from it. And so that. If I remove what I was hoping would happen in the book and just focus on what did, it's still a 4-star read. Mm-hmm. If I think about how I felt like this book could have been so much better if these things would have happened, it kind of drops down to like a 3-star read. Mm-hmm. So I left it at 4-star because I did feel it was fair to completely judge it based on what I was hoping to read about. I just felt like this could have had a lot more of that Mafia angst.
It was also the way it's marketed, because it's marketed as someone who doesn't speak. So you're marketing it. It's almost like false advertising, because you're expecting it to be something where she doesn't
Well,
speak for a reason, and you're going to get more of it in that book. It's kind of an expectation that the readers are getting because of the way it's being marketed. By the way, thank goodness my husband isn't in here listening to us talk about this book, because insert all the jokes.
About a silent wife.
Yeah.
Well, the joke was on Connor because she was purposely not talking.
She was nothing but, she was anything but silent. I mean, yeah.
But it was still good.
Yeah, it was good. It just wasn't what it was marketed to be.
Yeah.
Or what we were expecting. Yeah.
And sometimes, like when you're not, like you read a book and it's not, for example, my other book, Within These Walls, I thought that it was going to be kind of this forbidden romance because he works at the hospital and he falls for a patient. And that's really not even an issue in the book. And that didn't bother me. I just kind of went in thinking that I can't talk with my hand. Oh my God, it's so huge. I was thinking that's where we were going with it. And when it wasn't that way, I was totally fine with it because I really enjoyed the story. So, you know, things happen sometimes where you're really like expecting it to be one way, and sometimes you're okay with it. And sometimes you're like, but wait, you could have made your story so much more.
It's not huge. It's pleasantly plump.
I don't know that you would call that pleasantly plump.
It's
but look at how wrinkle-free my hand is. This has been the summer of swelling for me. I had an allergic reaction to some medication and my whole face swelled up. So my doctor, well, actually the urgent care doctor put me on different medicine, which my face finally got normal again. And then my feet swelled really badly and I broke out in a really bad rash from the new medication. So they took me off of that. I'm actually doing really well without having the medication anymore so far, knock on wood. And then I get stung by a yellow jacket and my hand swells up.
I'm so sorry.
I know, it's very upsetting.
It is. But just think what it'll look like when, I'm going to remind you this, when the swelling goes down and the wrinkles come back on the hand.
I don't think my hand is that wrinkly.
I feel like my hand is always wrinkly. I swear.
I'm okay. I can't even, it's a little better today. I can kind of do this, but this is as far as I can close my hand.
I think mine just needs lotion, but I do not like getting older.
Yesterday, I could only move my thumb. These fingers were so swollen, I couldn't even move them.
I don't like that feeling.
No.
Okay. My last book.
Sure. I'm sure viewers are like, this is fascinating content.
Totally relate, though. I'm sure some of those
Mandy's swelling.
Enjoy it while you're young, guys. Enjoy it while you're young. Okay. So the last book that I read is Hot Alpha Alien Husband by Dee Prince. And honestly, I know it sounds crazy, but I really liked this one. This is about Dax and Jeddah. So Jeddah is tricked by the UN. She and another group of women are tricked into this, what they think is going to be a scholarship program. It's like a program where they go in and they are ambassadors, and then they get to go to any college of their choice, all expenses paid. Well, what they don't know is while they're being vetted in this group, they're actually being shipped off to this planet where all of their women had died off except for a handful because of this flu that unfortunately humans brought to their planet. So apparently we gave them like, I don't know, COVID or something, and it killed all their women. And these guys are very humanoid. They're just a little bit bigger than our men on our planet. And when she's the troublemaker. She's the one that asks questions. She's the one going, what is going on? When she gets there, these guys are very alpha and they're very aggressive, and they haven't had women around like in 4 years. And so they are the first set of women to get there. And pregnancy is only 6 months instead of 9. And they have to have sex within the first 3 days in order to make sure that they don't get the flu that killed off their women. So this was actually really, really good. I know it sounds crazy, but it was good. And the little bit of banter, she calls them the clipboard assholes, the guys that put them on the ship and lied to them that were supposedly from the UN. It was actually really good. I liked it. I give it 4 stars. It's one of my favorite aliens so far. It was good. I liked it. Yeah.
All right. Are you ready for my next book?
I am. Is this your last one?
It is.
Okay.
You're done now, right?
I am done.
Okay. So this is my last book. It was
Okay.
Okay. So my last book is called Last Breath, and it has 2 authors. So I'm looking at my notes: Jessica Clare and Jen Frederick. So this is about Regan and Daniel. Right as soon as the book starts, we have Regan, who is being held as in a brothel. She was part of a sex trafficking thing. She's been moved around a few times. And then she gives us her backstory on how she ended up there. So she's been missing in this situation for about 2 months. And we have Daniel, who's been looking for his sister, who was kidnapped and sold into sex trafficking when she was on a spring break trip, I think about 18 months prior. So he's been searching for his sister for a while. So while he is going in and searching for his sister, he's getting paid by other people to get certain people out. So he's kind of like hunting for some people, and while he's also looking for his sister. So he gets Regan out. And I was so excited about this book because it started off so strong. I loved the writing. The writing is great through the whole book. They have kind of this insta-love relationship that sort of spoiled what was going on for me. And then it turns, there's like way too many sex scenes in here once they get together. And it really took away from, I think, the trauma that she had been through. I was looking for more of a build up to where she's going to be ready for that. And she actually comments like so many times about maybe she has Stockholm syndrome and that's why she's so like into him. And I'm just like, oh, like it started off so strong. So it ended up only being a 3-star read for me. Maybe it was my mood. Like being a mood reader, I will totally own that I probably marked books like higher or lower because in that moment, that's how I felt. And if I reread it, I might feel very differently. But I was just really disappointed with how quickly that escalated. I felt like it should have been drug out a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, but this is also the one that you were telling me about while I was driving home yesterday.
Yes.
In rush hour traffic. And you were
don't forget that important detail.
Very important detail, because I was also very annoyed at the time, so we should all note my mood too. But the way you described it to me, I was like, oh, and then you told me that one part that threw you off, and I was like, oh,
yeah.
And just that for me, I was like, oh, that just ruined it. So I don't know that it was your mood. I mean, granted, I was in a mood myself because I don't do rush hour, but yeah, that throws the whole book. So I'm not sure it was your mood.
I don't know. If anybody else reads it, let me know what you think.
Yeah. So, okay. All right, guys. So that's what we have for you this week. Thank you so much for watching.
Make sure to check back on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for new videos from us. And leave us a comment. What's a book that you read this week? Did you like it? Were you in a mood? How'd it go? Tell us.
Are we the only ones with moods? Until then, guys, we'll see you in the next video.